right. We have talked about Brook Sparkle project, and just to paint a broader picture, the mainstay, the main meat of the work that they do is to empower communities. They support humanity and they make impact. Now, as an organization, the community interest organization, and they are a dynamic community rooted social enterprise. They're committed to empowering, educating, and elevating individuals through holistic support, inclusive learning, and transformational engagement. When they do all of this, they end up igniting potential and they foster inclusion, ultimately inspiring brighter future. So that, in a nutshell, is what Brook Sparkle Project is about. And as I said, today, the initiative that we are all gathered together to experience and learn from and be transformed by is the honest conversations. Today, our main focus is on understanding neurodivergence, and we will be bursting myths. We will be gaining a broader understanding. We will be listening to a lived experience of someone who is navigating these waters. And as I said, it's going to be transformative. I firmly believe that the more we know, the better we're able to approach areas of life, with from an informed perspective. We as humans tend to think all we know is all there is to know, and that could be very, very wrong. It could be such an error approach to life. So today we're going to be learning, we're going to be understanding neurodivergence, we're going to be having meaningful conversations and discussions. We will have the opportunity to ask
Let's
questions.
go.
We will
Oh yeah,
have,
oh yeah. Mama just not holding game.
thank you. We're going to have the opportunity to ask questions and gain practical insight. Please understand that this is a safe space. It is an inclusive space. We want you to feel comfortable. Everything we discuss here stays in this room. And that is why when we get to the Q&A session, the recording will be stopped, okay? Because we want you to know that your information is private, and you can be vulnerable, okay? There are, as I said, experts in the room who can support you. So please come with an open mind. Ignite that curiosity and approach this with a willingness to learn. Okay. The recording will be available on YouTube later in the day. And as I said, when we get to the Q&A, we will turn that off. So for anyone who is not here, you're going to miss out on that bit, but it's not the entire thing. Okay. It's not the entire thing. All right. How many of us are here? Let me have a look. And what I'll do now is to give you a minute. Just try to think about people that should be in this room at this point in time. People who might be going through on neurodivergence, perhaps as a parent, perhaps as an individual who is neurodivergent themselves. And I want you to send them the invite to join this meeting. Okay, so if everyone can at this minute think of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people that you can quickly forward the invite link to, please do that right now. And I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do that. Please send the invite and put a caption. Say there's somewhere you need to be. It's happening right now. I don't think you should prioritize anything above this, right? I know you well enough. I know this to be useful, to be beneficial for you. And so I'm sending you this link and I want you to join. I want you to join. All right. They don't need to leave their homes. They can just log on their devices. It is convenient and it is going to be impactful. So we want to make sure as many people as possible benefit from it, from this conversation today, this honest conversation today. So if you've sent it to at least one person, can you give me a thumbs up? I want to see floaty thumbs in the room. If you forwarded it to at least minimum one person, you've sent that invite link, you've said, jump on this call. Just give me a thumbs up so I know that that's been done. Thank you. Thank you. I can see one, I can see two. Yes, yes. More thumbs up, please. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So we want to see the numbers growing. That's how I will know. Okay. So I'm asking you to leverage your relationships right now. All right. I want people to join and say, oh, it's because so and so person asked me. They're important enough to me and I trust their judgment. All right. So I'm asking you to leverage on those relationships. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Let's keep doing that. Let's keep doing that. Let's ensure that our light is coming in contact with light. The more light comes in contact with light and we all shine together, the more illuminated our world will be. Okay. All right. Let's go on to our icebreaker
And
now.
that of ensuring that individual votes count.
Okay.
If it does that, and then
Can we
people will know
unmute our
that
mics,
as
please?
individuals, if their votes count, they will cherish the fact that they
Thank
will.
you. Much appreciated. Please let's mute our mics. I don't know. Is it too late to ask mics to be muted when people join? I don't know. That might be something to explore because unintentionally people might not intend to, disturb, but if they're joining, things like that, and we've asked them to join. Okay, so we want to make it comfortable for them as well. All right, icebreaker time. And the question I want you to think about right now, I will tell you what to do with that thought in a minute, but I'd like you to think about what made you smile this week. Think about what made you smile this week. Just reflect in the last 7 days. So what occurrence, what event, what situation? It can be, something random. It can be mundane. It doesn't even have to be a whole production. What has made you smile this week? And if you don't mind, can you share with us? Can you share with us? I want spirits to be lifted as we go into this conversation today. So share that event, that occurrence, that action, something you did, something someone did for you, right? Something you saw, something you experienced that made you smile this week. If you don't mind, you can raise your hand. If you want to share, you can pop it in the chat. That's absolutely fine. So, thank you. I have one already. Cynthia, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I think a couple of things made me smile this week, and they are all from my daughter, right? She has been so expressive this week, right? Like you see her give like full sentence explaining her feelings. And I and my husband will just look at ourselves like it's like, wow. Like on 2 occasions this week, she'll be like, her younger brother, Jesse did this to me and I don't like it. And I would look at my husband and he would look at me, we'll be like, wow. So it happened a lot this week and we are just smiling like, this is someone that didn't walk up to like 3 years and she's talking like this. I said, wow. So that's what made me smile this week.
Amazing. Now you've made me smile. Just hearing you, I could hear the animation in your voice, the excitement in your voice. And it probably took you back to that moment, didn't it? You felt the emotions again, didn't you?
Yeah, imagine, the moment where it all started, the diagnosis, is she ever going to talk in her life? Is she ever going to work? Imagine a child at 2 years plus, not, okay, a child at, on my daughter's first birthday, we couldn't get any picture because she couldn't sit unsupported, not to, she couldn't sit, like, she was still like her neck, there was no neck control, right? So that her first birthday, I think that day before, we tried to snap her, and before then, we had to feed her. At 1 year, she feeds lying down on the bed. She can't sit. So this is the person running about and asking me questions. Like if she sees me dressing up, she'll be like, Mommy, where are you going to? Are you going to work? And I'll be like, wow, is this the same person 10 years ago? So
Amazing.
yeah, that's what made me smile this week.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Cynthia. Thank you. Thank you. Abigail has put in the chat, watching the eclipse together with the whole neighborhood. I mean, that was quite a thing. My son then said, the next eclipse is in 90 years. I said we better go outside because we're not going to get another. I'm not going to get another opportunity to see it. But thank you for reminding us of that. It was quite an experience, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
Wow, wow. Thank you, thank you. Any more thoughts? Any more
Yes.
um volunteers to share what made them smile? I was at a wedding yesterday, and I was cheesing like, I mean, it was as though I was the one that was dressed up. It was good. I'm a lover girl. I like to describe myself like that. And just seeing the bride and the groom and their family and them dancing and doing their best efforts to follow routines and all of that. And
Yeah.
I thought, oh, and I was just cheesing. I was just hey. At the point, I was like, okay, your cheeks are aching now. Dial it back. But it was a good feeling. So for me, that's something that happened recently that made me smile.
Mm.
Getting Okay, we have another comment. Getting on the London bus and practically living in central London for the first time. Wow, new
Mm.
experiences. Wow, wow, interesting. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure if we all think back to the last week, there's loads of things that have made us smile. And I would like us to carry that positive energy, that positive state of being into the conversation that we're going to be having today. It could get a little bit emotionally heavy, especially when people who are going to share their own lived experiences, people who are probably going through certain challenges. But let us know that we're all in that space together. Let us feed off of that positivity off of each other. All right, so let's move on to the first session in today's meeting. If you've just joined us, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you spending your afternoon with us. Today, we are looking at honest conversations, and it is understanding neurodivergence. Okay, we'll be bursting myths, we'll be learning, we'll be exposing ourselves to new knowledge today. Okay, I said earlier that this is a safe space. Please feel free to be vulnerable, ask your questions, and in that Q&A time, the recording will be turned off. So the meeting is currently being recorded because it will be available on YouTube later in the day. However, the Q&A session will be made private, okay? So we'll turn off the recording and that will not be available. All right, as you can see on your screen, our speakers are here. They're raring to go. We have Abigail Vanderpuye, who is manager KCC in adult social care. We have Dr. Dami Olusile-Amjo, who is a GP, and we have Cynthia Ogene, who is the founder of Nigerian Women in UK Community. Okay, Cynthia is going to be taking the first session, and I'm going to read her profile as she gets ready to take the floor. Cynthia Ogene is a community advocate. All right. She is a content creator, and she's also the founder, as I said, of the Nigerian Women in UK Community. As a mother raising a neurodivergent child, she's passionate about creating awareness. She's passionate about fostering inclusion and amplifying conversations around neurodiversity, parenting, and disability advocacy. Now, drawing from her lived experience, Cynthia shares authentic insight into the realities of raising a child with additional needs while balancing family life and community engagement. She's committed to helping parents and caregivers feel informed, supported, and empowered, particularly within communities where conversations like this around neurodivergence and disability are often overlooked. Through her growing online presence and community initiatives, Cynthia advocates for greater understanding, acceptance, and support for neurodivergent individuals along with their families. Her work focuses on breaking stigma, encouraging inclusive practices, and building stronger, more informed communities. As she'll be doing today, as a speaker, she brings a unique combination of personal experience, practical perspective, and heartfelt advocacy, inspiring audiences to embrace neurodiversity and create environments where every single child can thrive. Powerful, powerful. Cynthia, you're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yes, Desola, thank you.
Over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Desola. Thank you to the organizer. Thank you, everyone present here. Thank you for your time. So I would like to start. I don't know if I should start from the questions or how do you want me to start?
We just want to hear you express your journey so far, if that's all right.
Okay, it's fine. Okay, my journey started 10 years ago. My daughter turned 10 April, right? So my journey started 10 years ago when I had my daughter. And in short, just this morning, I was sharing with someone that my daughter's case, is my camera off? Oh, okay. I didn't know. So sorry, I didn't know my camera had been off. So I was sharing with someone this morning. I was sharing I share my story every day. Somehow, something would happen. I will have to, explain some things, and it means me sharing my journey. So it started 10 years ago when I had my daughter, and like I said, I told someone this morning that it was my daughter who made me even understand that there's something called special needs. I never knew, right? So I had her 10 years ago, and she came out, everything was perfect, no issues, no oxygen. The only thing I noticed was that she didn't cry out immediately. And the matron there in Nigeria, this happened in Nigeria, she had to, tap her bum, and she eventually cried. And she did very well at birth, because when something started playing, I had to go back to the hospital, and the matron brought out the record and said, she did very well at birth. So what's going on? And all that. So that's where our journey started from. So it started actually from when my daughter was about 5 months, 6 months. We didn't know what was happening. Myself and my husband, we didn't know. We're just naive, carrying our baby around. We didn't know what's going on. So we went to get baby stuff. I think her food, her milk, because I didn't breastfeed. So we went to get her milk, and the lady saw us, and she called my husband speaks Igbo. So she called my husband, and she was like, come, no, 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 this is not right. I can't see stuff like this and not draw your attention. You're too close to me. And I was looking at the lady like, what are you talking about? And she said, this child is like 6 months, 4 months, right? I can't remember the month, sorry, but she wasn't up to a year. But why is she not carrying her neck? Why is her neck lagging and all that? So I was looking at her, she was talking, and she said, no, 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 it's something you need to see a ped and all that. So she gave us someone's contact, and we went to see the man, and the man was really very old. He knows the job, but he was old, and I was really scared. I was telling my mother, how can we be listening to this old man? This man is old, he does not know what he's saying. He's a pediatrician, but he's old. I think he was about 90 something as at the time. So he explained to us, and so he gave us something that we should take a particular drug to help, but I didn't take it. I'm very stubborn, so I didn't give my. I said no. I told my husband, I said no. This man is good. I can't take what this man is saying. So we went to the hospital. We saw another pediatrician. So you see, that's why at times I'm so angry with Nigerian system, honestly, and nobody still explained to us that this is what is going on, right? They just said, okay, how they explained to us was that, okay, you know what, she's delayed. Maybe if your mates are working at 1, she could work at 2, she could talk at 3, but she would do everything, but she's just, so nobody explained anything to us. So at 2 years, my daughter wasn't working. And we were worried and went to see an orthopedic doctor, and he said, okay, her feet, insole, blah, blah, blah. And he directed us to, I was living in Port Harcourt at the time, so he directed us to Enugu. So we had to go to Enugu to get this, is it cast or insole? I don't know what I don't know if anyone knows the name, what I'm talking about. I think it's cast also. So we went to get it, and my daughter eventually started work. She didn't wear that thing for up to 6 months, and she started working. So the doctor then looked at my daughter, no medical examination, and he said she has cerebral palsy. And that's what I carried out. Oh, this child has cerebral. That day I literally cried my eyes out, right? So he said she has cerebral palsy. And we said, okay, no problem. We started therapy, what's it called? Occupational therapy, speech therapy. We started all of that back in Nigeria. Then fast forward to moving to the UK, and we started the process again. She was in a mainstream school here in the UK. This happened, we came to the UK 2023, 2024, yeah, 2023, late 2023. So she was attending a mainstream school, and we started having issues. Of course, she's not fully independent, and the school, they were struggling, they didn't come out straight, and they couldn't meet her needs, sort of. So there was too many back and forth, it was really stressful then. So finally, I had to approach the school. I reached out to them that, see, I don't get what is happening. Are you guys able to meet my daughter's needs or not? So that's when they opened up to me. And before then, I had already started thinking about, I'll discuss with my husband. I'm like, I think we should just move this child to a special school. It's best for her, right? So I approached the school in that manner. I said, okay, if you cannot meet this child's need, how about me taking her to a special school? And they said, oh, yes, that they've been thinking about it. They can't meet her needs, blah, blah, blah. So we started the process of taking my daughter to a special school. And yes, eventually the school actually supported us, right? So that's how we got a place in a special school. And she started attending special school here in the UK, of which she's doing well, right? There's been progress since she started, right? So I don't know if this is enough for my journey before I go into my questions. Hello.
Thank you. If you're comfortable there, we can hold it there.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for telling us. But what I'd like to know is the transition. So you describe, and apologies, we're not a Q&A yet, but if you don't mind, so you talked about your experience in Nigeria and then in the UK. So how did that transition occur? Did you was there anything in particular that they started to do that you didn't get back in Nigeria? Because you also touched on how the Nigerian system didn't quite work, in your opinion, regarding your child's diagnosis. So was it all about the wrong diagnosis, or was there anything
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think I missed a point, right? So the Nigeria, it was wrong. I missed this point. I'm sorry about that. So in Nigeria, we had wrong diagnosis, right? Because there was no medical examination whatsoever. He just looked at her and said, oh, okay, he said she has cerebral palsy, but it's mild. I quote him, right? So when we moved to the UK, in short, we're looking at her file today, it's still there because when we saw the GP the first time, we said she has cerebral palsy. So the first person we met, the GP, he said no, that he's not sure that she doesn't have cerebral palsy, she's not autistic as well. So then we started the process of finding out what it is. So they said they're going to do like a genetic test to examine, to get to find out what it is. They did the first one, it didn't come out well. It came out as, I think there was nothing, they didn't see anything. So they now said that you have to go for a more intense one where they asked for my blood sample, my sample, and my husband's. So they did everything. It took a while. I think it took about 6 months or less than 6 months or so for the result. So they called us, genetics doctor called my husband. It was a video call, and said she wants to talk to us about it and what they found out. So when we started, she started explaining everything that my daughter has is a rare genetic condition called Gebredi virus. According to her, it's new. They just found out about, I think, 2017, and my daughter was born 2016. So according to the genetics doctor, she said my daughter is the second person she's seen so far since she started, practicing this case. So it's quite new, right? That's why they call it's a rare genetic condition. So that's where we picked it up from there, and they started therapies and so the difference, like I would say, in Nigeria, she was just diagnosed, no examination, no test, nothing. They just look, and the diagnosis is even wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It's even wrong, and they just, diagnose her. And another difference is Nigerian, like anytime I tell my story, I feel so bad because I feel like there's this question there's this question that said, why is sorry, let me go back. I can't remember. So why does autism appear to be on the rise among Black Africans? Honestly, I can challenge this anyway because I just feel like it's everywhere, but we are not, like someone said the other day, said, why is it now? Why is it everywhere now? Because people are now free to talk about it, unlike before. So that's why it seems like, oh, it's everywhere. Every child has autism, every child is autistic, every child has ADHD. No, back there or where we're coming from, we don't talk about it. In short, anytime I think about Nigeria, I still feel so bad for kids in the rural area because I know thousands of children are suffering. Some of them is not even the parents' fault. They don't even know what is going on. They are not even aware, no knowledge. Some of them, they still think the child is possessed.
Hmm.
Yeah. Before I left Nigeria, I know of a friend's neighbor. Since every time I visit my friend, I visit her almost every day. I have never seen that child. The mom, she locks the child inside the house. The husband ran away. He said the child is deadly. So the thing about, oh, it's not every, is awareness. We're not, I have a page now where I talk about my daughter and I share my daughter's videos. I share her pictures on days she's not smiling. I put it out there, right? So people reach out to me every day. I've gotten so many messages. Oh, since I started seeing your daughter, I'm not confident about sharing my child. I don't like sharing her pictures. I don't know what people will say. And I said, who are the people? Are they the ones who created this child or the children? So I think we are now open, we are now free, there is awareness, we are no longer ashamed. We cannot talk about our children. So that's why it's like it's everywhere. Everywhere online, you see a mom talking about her child, you see a mom talking about I'm going for therapy, you see a mom talking about celebrating her child's progress, her child is 10. Imagine me coming out to post online. My daughter just turned 10, but I still celebrate when she talks. I'm like, wow, 10 years ago, I never knew she would. Did you get? So we are now open. We now talk about it. We celebrate their milestone. We celebrate. During this holiday, I started a series teaching my daughter, like, teaching her how to be like independent and all that. I record her, when she's trying to apply her cream, when she's trying to dress up. I celebrate the milestone. She's 10. Kids are 8. I know they are doing more than that, but this is her journey. This is our journey, and I don't feel anyhow celebrating it, right? Because I feel so good when I receive message like, oh, you inspire me. I'm doing this. I started doing this. A lady told me, just looking at my video, she started buying the milk I'm using in my house because I inspire. I laughed when she said it, right? So it just sort of like the awareness is not there. So that's why it's like, oh, it's everywhere. People are autism everywhere. No, it's just awareness for me.
Amazing. Amazing. Big hug. Big
Thank
hug to you, Cynthia. God bless you and God bless your daughter. Oh,
you.
fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, one of the things that, you said a lot of outstanding things, but one of the things that you said that jolted me was it is her journey.
It
It is
is.
her journey, and nobody gets to tell her it is right or wrong or this is how you're supposed to live it. It is
Mhm.
her journey,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I'm grateful for her on her behalf that she's got you and her dad to support her. Yeah,
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move to our next speaker now. Let me just give you a minute. Let those emojis come through. I'm seeing the hearts, I'm seeing the thumbs up. Go on. Release those emotions.
Mm.
Release those emotions. That's fine. Yes, I mean it is a heavy topic, but it's
Yeah.
landing on the positive,
Mm.
isn't it? And yeah, it's quite a lot of people's experience, and it's powerful. Yeah, thank you. Those are the words, Abigail. Powerful story. Powerful story.
Thank
Yes,
you,
and they want
Abigail.
to see. Yes, you're welcome. They want to see your channel. So if you want to pop that in the chat, perhaps
Okay.
the
My
name of the page.
my Instagram handle is, where can I drop this? I'm not used to Zoom meetings. I'm trying.
Okay, perhaps we can feed that back. Thursday, can we do that when we send the post event email?
Yes.
We'll put all those details
Okay,
there.
that's
Yes,
okay.
most definitely. We
Do
will.
that for everyone who has registered. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to be inviting Dr. Dami to the podium now, to the virtual podium, so you can stand up and sit down again. All right. Let me pop your um introduction on the screen. Bear with. There we go. This is what happens when you have 100 slides open.
Mm-hmm.
Be like me. All right. So, Dr. Dami Olusile-Amjo If I've said that in the wrong way, please pull me aside and correct me.
Perfectly correct.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. Gorgeous photo, by the way. Dr. Dami is a UK-based general practitioner, and she practices out of Herne Bay with a foundation in endocrinology, metabolism, and diabetes. She's passionate about primary care and collaborative working across healthcare sectors to improve patient access, experience, and health outcomes. Her interests include integrated care, service innovation, and advancing patient-centered healthcare delivery. Join me and welcome Dr. Dami Olusile-Amjo. You have slides, so Teros will be putting that up shortly. Am I right? I am right. Okay. Dr. Dami, if you want to begin, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Isola. Thank you to the organizers of this event, to everyone who managed to attend today. I've just got a few slides, talking about understanding neurodivergence. I think I must say thank you to Cynthia for sharing her story as well. So I'm just trying to break it down as simply as I can. Obviously, there would be there'll be a Q&A segment after. So if there's anything that, that I said that wasn't clear, just let me know. But we talk about neurodivergence all the time. What is neurodivergence? I mean, it's a big name, neuro and divergence. So sort of simply breaking it down, it just means basically a person's brain, it works differently from what is considered typical. I think, as Cynthia was sharing her story, there are some things that you typically expect to happen at a certain point in a child's development. You expect a child to be talking at a certain age. You expect a child to be sitting at a certain age. And when something is different from what is typical in association with some other things, then, then there's a diagnosis that can come as a broad umbrella term to say the person might be neurodivergent. So, I mean, it's not a disease and it's not a sign of low intelligence. I think sometimes there might be, this person is neurodivergent. Oh, meaning that, maybe the person isn't smart, but it's not that. You've got, very, very, very smart people that are neurodivergent. Even some of them are geniuses with really, really high IQ. So it's not a disease. It's not a sign of low intelligence. It's just that the person's brain works a little bit differently from what is considered typical. And, if you're able to understand the person, then you might be able to access and relate to the person a little bit better. So so instead it's a natural variation in how people think, how they learn, how they communicate, how they process information and experience the world. It's a different way, not a lesser way of thinking. I've mentioned thinking, learning, communicating, and processing information. They just do it differently to what we consider typical. So neurodivergence, it's a wide, these are just a few common examples of what might be considered neurodivergent. And I'll put autism and ADHD top there because that's what most of us would be able to relate with. There's dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, Tourette syndrome, who watched the Oscars, the last Oscars, and heard someone in the crowd shouting out, profanities, it's Tourette syndrome, the person is neurodivergent. So it covers, and these are just a few examples. There are so many that would come under that umbrella term, neurodivergence. Okay, next, please. So what we know about someone being neurodivergent, and sort of permit me, sometimes I would be using, autism and ADHD as common examples later on, but we know that most of these things are lifelong conditions, so if someone is, diagnosed autism or ADHD as a child, depending on where they land on the spectrum. So it can be that they've got, really mild autism or, quite severe autism with other associated symptoms. But usually these are lifelong conditions. And even though with time or with proper therapy, you might see the person coping a little bit better in adulthood or being able to integrate in the, typical world or with neurotypical people. These are conditions that, that are usually lifelong. It is present everywhere. It's across all cultures, ethnic groups, socioeconomic backgrounds. It's not for poor people. Quite affluent or people that are high up in the socioeconomic backgrounds, that have children that are quite that are neurodivergent. Like I said, they can have any level of intelligence. So it's not that they've got low intelligence. You've got people with any level of intelligence, and also depending on where the person is on the spectrum, support needs may vary. So you find people that have got sort of mild autism that are in mainstream schools, don't really need a lot of support or anything, and then you have people who are on the other end of the spectrum, with quite severe autism, associated with things like learning difficulties, behavioral challenges that need that extra support. Okay. In most cases, and I say that very carefully, there isn't a single cause. Now, we do have some rare medical conditions or genetic syndromes that can have symptoms of autism associated with it, but autism spectrum disorder on its own, it isn't a single cause. What most people or what most studies have shown us is that there's a combination of maybe some genetic and some environmental factors. They haven't really been able to identify a particular gene as causing all of the people with, or affecting everyone that's got autism spectrum or any of the other neurodivergent diseases or illnesses. A lot of people, I know there is still a lot of talk about vaccines and autism, but repeated studies have shown that vaccines don't cause autism. Poor parenting doesn't cause autism, so I don't want anyone here to feel bad. If you're in Nigeria, they'll say, "Oh, you spoiled the child. That's why the child is, being disruptive in class or being disruptive in church or what have you. Oh, it's the parents. Oh, the parents are not strict. It has nothing to do with that. So, okay, so every parent here needs to give themselves some grace. It's not Poor parenting doesn't cause autism or ADHD. Also, things like speaking multiple languages doesn't cause autism. I see a lot of people say when they move from Nigeria here, maybe some people might be telling them like, oh, in terms of speech delay, maybe, speech delay is not autism, So we know that things like speaking multiple languages does not cause autism. Next slide, please. Next slide. It hasn't changed. Okay, I'll just go ahead okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so what are the signs to look out for? Now, so these are a lot of signs that you find in children, because obviously children or young adults, these are, like I said, these are lifelong conditions. So if a child had autism, you find people that you work with in the workplace that have autism as well. Okay, so you have people in the workplace that have autism as well. There are adults with autism, there are adults that are neurodivergent, there are adults with ADHD, but a lot of the signs that I've put on here are things that people might notice in children. So things like, delayed speech. You expect a child by 2 to have been saying a few sentences or a few words. But like I said, it's not, if somebody has delayed speech, it's not all delayed speeches that is autism, okay? And some people with autism don't even have delayed speech, okay? So it's not just that, it's a constellation of signs and symptoms that, the specialist would then look at before, they give that diagnosis. So, but some things to watch out for, things like limited eye contact, difficulty making friends, very repetitive behaviors, just happy to do the same thing over and over and over again. strong need for routine, such that if there is, things like you're veering out of a certain routine, you're used to passing, road A to work every day. And for some reason, there is traffic on road A and you decide to pass road B, the child can have a meltdown. So they have that strong need for routines. Sensory sensitivity, very sensory. You have, some kids, you want to give them a bath, and a bath should take a few minutes, but they're just happy. They don't want to come out of don't want to come out of the bath for 1 or 2 hours. And you could have other people that is the other way around. Giving them a bath or a shower is a total nightmare because they don't like the feeling of water in the body. So a lot of sensory sensitivity. Some children would struggle with things like, we're all wearing clothes that have got labels on the back, but to a child who has autism and is very sensory sensitive, that label, it's very, very irritating. They just don't want it's irritating. They can't deal with it. So it's either you remove the dress, you cut the label, other things like that. Hyperactivity. Now, hyperactivity sometimes is associated with autism, but most of the time we find it with ADHD. So you can find autistic kids who are hyperactive, some aren't hyperactive, but sometimes autism can go hand in hand with ADHD. Poor concentration and impulsivity are some of the things, some of the signs that people who are neurodivergent. Next slide, please. So, management and support. If you feel like, as a parent, you've got, suspicions or concerns about your child, or even as an adult, you have people today who, because of the lack of availability or lack of awareness at the time, and now they're seeking to find out why they see things the way they do, why, they have difficulty in communicating socially, so the options that can be sought for management and support. So getting a diagnosis. So a lot of the things I'll be putting on here would be about children because that's usually who we see. So, usually a referral from the GP or the health visitors, usually the health visitors at certain times in a child's development would be doing developmental assessments. So the health visitor can refer or through school. If school has noticed that there's some things that are a bit different from the other kids, they might call the parents, what have been going on at home, or try and voice their concerns to a parent so that they could get a diagnosis. In the UK, you have the EHCP, which is the Education, Health and Care Plan that usually parents can apply for, school can apply for to get some additional funding to help support the child better in school. Things like behavioral therapy, if there are, strategies to support daily functioning, special education support if the child's needs are, depending on where they are on the spectrum, if they are not coping in mainstream school, there might be talks about accessing special education or special needs schools. Things like speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, educational psychology. Those are, some of the things that can be used to support. Okay, so I've just put it on here, like, helping families thrive. Families often benefit from understanding the child's strengths and challenges. It's not an easy diagnosis or easy issue if you're told that your child has extra challenges. I don't think anyone or any mom when they were pregnant was hoping or planning that I'm going to have a child that would need extra challenges. So it's not something that that is planned ahead of time. So it can be quite challenging. But things that can help. Things like having consistent routines. We know that people with neurodivergence, they do like their routines. Clear communication, local support groups, particularly for us moving from Nigeria. I think most of us are Nigerian. From Africa down to the UK, having that, that local support that you had at home might not be available here. So finding, having a close support group here that can sort of just support you as a family, support your child, while you're going through and getting the diagnosis or getting the additional support from the system here. And education and financial support as well. I won't go too much into that because that's a whole whole topic on its own. But those are all things that, that can help in helping families and helping children as well. Next. Yes. So, I mean, I put it on here as well that acceptance and understanding are key within the family and the community. I think it's really good that there's more awareness now. You know, Cynthia had mentioned, things about, back in Nigeria, just all sorts of things, is it witchcraft, is it a spiritual problem, is it bad parenting? But I think now we know that, it's not any of these things. So, acceptance and understanding are key. But it's also important, early recognition so that you can get the right interventions early to help. Appropriate support, they make a much bigger difference than just having the label or the diagnosis itself. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dami. Thank you so much. Just bringing that clarity into the conversation, what it is, what it's not, it makes a whole lot of difference. Thank you so much. And for, people who are allies, people like myself as an adult living with undiagnosed neurodivergence myself, it just makes you feel seen, right? And thank you so much for taking time to put that together. Can we please appreciate Dr. Dami for her presentation? She will be hanging back to be part of the Q&A, all right? Again, a warm welcome to anyone who has just come into the room. We're very glad that you're here, and I am very sure that you're getting value, okay? You've given up part of your Saturday afternoon, but it's not for nothing, okay? You're getting value from the time that you're spending here with us. I did say earlier, and I'll repeat it, that this is a safe space, okay? We want to ensure that everyone feels comfortable. They're open to sharing their stories, open to asking those pressing questions. And so right now, the session is being recorded because we want other people to have access to it on YouTube after now. But when we get to the Q&A, we're going to turn off the recording so that everyone is comfortable and they can ask those burning questions and get the support that they need. All right, we're going to move. Brilliant, thank you. Please keep those questions coming. When we get to Q&A, we would take them one after the other. We're going to move on to the third presentation today. And I'm just going to pop it on the screen so that we can all see. Okay. All right. So now we're going to be welcoming to the virtual podium. We're going to welcome Abigael Vanderpuye. But Abigail, please set me straight if I've not said that correctly. I do apologize in advance. Abigail is a service manager within Kent County Council's Adult Social Care Network. She is I beg your pardon. She brings right. Her specialist focus is on mental health, complex discharge, and forensic social work. She brings extensive experience working at the interface of health and social care. She leads multidisciplinary teams and collaborates closely with NHS partners to support adults with complex needs. Abigail has particular expertise in working with autistic adults within statutory services, including those who are at risk of hospital admission, experiencing delayed discharge, and involved in forensic pathways. Her work focuses on ensuring lawful, person-centered practice in line with the Mental Capacity Act, the CARE Act, and the evolving national guidance, while at the same time advocating for approaches that reduce restrictive practice and improve long-term outcomes. That's a big job, Abigail. Pat on the back for you. She has led and contributed to service development initiatives aimed at improving discharge processes, strengthening multi-agency working, and embedding learning from complex cases into everyday practice. Abigail is especially passionate about ensuring that services are better understood, and they respond to the needs of autistic adults, including recognizing diagnostic overshadowing, communication differences, and the impact of trauma. Please make welcome Abigail to the podium. Thank you.
Thank
Abigail?
you, Disha. Seriously, I can try and share my presentation. I can try and share my presentation, but probably be
Oh, I
easier
see.
if you share it for me. Is that what we're going with then, Disha? Let's see if
Okay.
it's
Okay. It's starting to share.
Shall I try to share it, or is it starting to share? Okay. My network is slightly unstable, so I do apologize on the onset if it's cuts out a little bit. Sorry, is it coming? Oops. Oh, there we go. So as Disula has already explained, that today really is not about, today's point is really about having that safe space to talk about, have a respectful and positive conversation about neurodivergence and particularly interchangeably with autism. But as Dr. Dami has explained, autism and neurodivergence are two very different things. And we've heard a bit about how it affects children from Cynthia's story and from Dr. Dami's presentation. So my focus is really a little bit more around sort of autism in adults, and also just how we look at it in society, and just changing our mindset around it a little bit, particularly from those of us coming from an African background, in a culture, faith-based culture. There are times when the very things that make us strong in our communities also very negatively impact the conversation and the views around neurodivergence and autism. So as I said before, neurodivergence is not neurodivergence. It is one of the things that comes along or can be recognized within neurodivergence. If you think of neurodivergence as like the core operating process in the computer, if you've got HP, they've designed it slightly different than if you've got say a Dell laptop or anything like that. If you're thinking, if we're just using that analogy, it's not a perfect analogy, but let's just go with it. So, or sometimes even your phone, you might say, oh, this phone has a really amazing camera, but if I try to get it to do this other thing, it quickly overwhelms it. So it's about understanding the core operating processor, the underlying thing that person, that's what neurodivergence is about, particularly when you're talking about it in terms of adults. Okay, so in children, it's been really researched, and there's so much more now that's coming up. But sometimes in adults who are now recognizing themselves as neurodivergent, it's like, whoa, what's happening? Have I caught autism? No. Have I caught neurodivergent? No. Your core operating process has always been different. You've just been coping and doing what you need to do in a society that thinks that, HP is better than Dell, so to speak. So that's sort of the view of how we want to look at it. Another analogy that sometimes works a little bit, is that if you think of a soundboard, and let me see, like when you look at those producers mixing music, and they've got all these like little pushy things. We'll have that. I've got a picture of it in one of the other slides. So it's not like, oh, everyone's supposed to say a line. Think of it more like, someone's, it's a bit louder on this bit and some lower on that bit, and all of it together makes that person sound. That's who they are. Okay, so that's neurodivergence. Autism is just one of the aspects of it that can make life that little bit more challenging for the individual. It's really important to emphasize that autism is not mental illness. Mental illness is also another thing that can come along with neurodivergence, mainly usually because of just literally the stress of living in a world that insist on not recognizing the person as equal to and in full of the same humanity and dignity as, you know, as what we consider neurotypical. So recognition matters, absolutely, you know, as a result of what we've described. And I get quite excited about this because, as you say, you know, growing up in a different part of the world where people hide their children, you know, there is tolerance, but not really acceptance, you know, of different than the West to bring dignity and acceptance around neurodivergence, particularly around autism. And the autistic community themselves have taken a lot of that power to say, we are here, you know, we are worthy, you will respect us, you know. And so sometimes the language around autism has changed a little bit. You might hear people say, no, don't say person with autism, say neurodivergent, or say autistic person. And it's if you try and unpick all that, it gets a little bit difficult. So it's easier to just ask the individual, how would you like to be referred to? If someone has disclosed that, you know, I'm autistic, do you like to be set up person with autism, neurodivergent, autistic person? They'll happily tell you. Okay, we can move on. So next slide, sorry. And I think, you know, Dr. Dami's done a really good job already of describing what neurodivergent, the broad umbrella of it. So we'll move on from there. Basically, the main thing is just to understand that everyone's brain or operating system works the same. And as we've heard already, in lifelong condition, you don't catch it. You can be infected with it, you know, as an adult, or, you know, what's happening now to me? What's been going on? I suddenly feel like I'm struggling. We'll come to that a little bit, as well as, you know, particularly probably most of us here are women of a certain age. So he's talking a little bit about how neurodivergence can impact on us. But autism is often recognized in childhood, but many people are not diagnosed until much later. For many of the reasons that we've already heard, because people just, you know, get on with life, they cope, you know, and women especially, just sort of are socialized to minimize, you know, our needs and focus on other people as much as possible. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah. Okay. So like I was saying about the sort of the soundboard, this is sort of the what I was trying to say. So everyone is not necessarily on this line from one to the other. It's more about just all the different ways that a person's different strengths play up for a person, which, you know, which comes together to the person who they are. So for someone, you know, they may struggle, you know, they're extremely good at planning, being really, really organized. And that's celebrated, you know, in society. They may really struggle with their energy level, you know, just being around so many people can be really draining. You almost need to go off and just, I don't know, to recharge, they literally have to be a particular overwhelmed. That's never, that person is neurodivergent, and they may therefore need something different from another person who is absolutely fine with being around lots and lots of people. Usually when we talk about it in this way, you know, or you may be here thinking, oh, I wonder if I'm neurodivergent. And that's this beginning and the start of recognition, because it's not an illness that needs curing. Next slide, please. Yeah, sorry, sorry, I kind of covered this a bit already, just the importance of the distinction of the fact that they have that come alongside that are not a result of them being neurodivergent, particularly, especially in this society with the recognition of autism, has come the recognition of anxiety and depression and things like that. people who are neurodivergent and autistic are not necessarily always going to have anxiety and depression. That's not it. It's just that, like, if you can imagine trying to operate in a world that won't see you for who you are, can raise a person's anxiety. A lot of us here are probably immigrants born somewhere else, coming here, and the big change alone, having to see it, and then you imagine adding neurodiversity on top of that. Imagine then perhaps having some aspect of autism on top of that. It is a miracle that more people aren't experiencing mental illness and depression, anxiety, with all of that going on. Therefore, recognition and support is incredibly important and really very much appreciated. And I'll just give an example, which I didn't include in this, but I think just to kind of help illustrate just sometimes what feeling seen does for people. And just we have a lovely lady in our church. She's an older lady, very clearly undiagnosed neurodivergent. Probably, back in the day, who's gonna diagnose you? And she recently experienced some health challenges, and because of my area of work, everybody was saying, yeah, let us know if we can help. Let me know if you need any help, and I'll come. And but because I work in this field, I said, what I can offer you is I can give you a lift from here to there if you need it. And the way that her brain processes things was, thank you for telling me the specific thing that you can do. I can incorporate that into my planning. And that is because that whole, tell me if you need anything, which is, well, how do I know what exactly you can help me with? And she was quite blunt about, well, what does that even mean? Like, why are you asking me to tell you what I need? You tell me what you can offer, and then I can tell you if I need it. Most people will just kind of be like, yeah, okay, and not take advantage of it. But recognizing what she needs and then giving that to her, this lady told everybody that this is what I had done for her and how much she appreciates it. To the point, it kind of broke my heart, because I thought, how long have you need in no one or meeting the need in the way you need it, and for this tiny little act to mean so much to you that you're literally and I thought, holy cow, how are we as particularly, again, perhaps everybody here, but in communities of faith, how are we coming alongside people and not looking at ourselves so much, but looking at what people need? So you can tell this is an area that I could talk on for quite a while, so I won't do that. I will very clearly know that. So that kind of feeds into the slide, which talks about the fact that it's really about clear communication and that peer support and advocacy for people who are neurodivergent, and particularly for those whose neurodivergence plays out in autism. Sorry, we can move on. And I think Dr. Dami covered this a little bit. Autism can sometimes be viewed as if it's about the person being stubborn or not trying to just go with the flow, or that they're being rude or disrespectful because they might state things quite plainly or be quite clear. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand what you're doing. Why can't you just be seen as rudeness? Or particularly with adults who are perhaps recognizing, I wonder if my way of doing things will be different, to hide it. People tend to hide it. And then with young people, with the best will in the world, adults are waiting for them to grow out of this neurodivergence and this thing that they're doing. Can you just patiently wait for you to grow out of it, or sometimes beat it out of them? So, which is what the issues around trauma and abuse can come in, when communities or parents or caregivers with the best will in the world think, let's just straighten you out so that we can set you up for a good future, because this thing is hindering you, so to speak, rather than changing the environment around the person to give them the best chance possible. And again, in our communities sometimes can be seen as some spiritual problem, some poor auntie or old lady back in the village being, accused of putting this on some poor child. And that's not, it's a lot. It's a lot. Imagine as a child being some of these messages, or even coming through, and you grow up with it thinking there's some deficit, or you've been targeted in some way. So the same culture and faith and family that can offer strength, when we draw on those strengths can with accurate information and compassion can help individuals who are neurodivergent and or autistic to make their path in this life that little bit easier. And I'm sure many of you heard the phrase, like, let's tread lightly on this earth, because you don't know what someone is going through. You just don't know what someone might be going through. Okay, can you have the next slide, please? Sorry, somebody is being very loud in my background here. So I think one of the things that I mentioned earlier is, why are adults, if this is a lifelong thing, why are adults suddenly becoming aware that perhaps they are autistic? And what a lot of the research has shown, and what adults who are neurodivergent and or autistic have been feeding back, and a lot of the learning that's going on is that when you're just used to coping, when you're just used to working twice as hard as everyone else to seem to be okay, when you are, copying what normal looks like, you get used to it. You just seem to just get used to doing that. But sometimes, it starts to show in the body. It starts to show in the way that, the high blood pressure, the way that your body is processing some of these things as you're getting older. It's that little bit more difficult than when you're young and you're just trying to kind of get out there and achieve life and doing everything you can. A lot of neurodivergent autistic adults have shared that they just rehearse and practice the same, the mirror, you say what needs to be said, you do what needs to be done, you force that eye contact and you get on with life. Then comes getting slightly older, and the compounding impact of things like burnout, menopause, and then suddenly it's that much more difficult to cope. So that's one of the things that we recognize, particularly the impact of, for some of our, women of a certain age, the impact of menopause and the hormonal changes on the brain's ability. So that core operating processes ability to put up with a society that is not able to recognize, it starts to change, basically. It starts to become less able to tolerate that nonsense, basically. And people might say, this person, so why is she becoming so difficult now? What's going on? But it's a brain, it's an organ. And so it's changing, which is something that's now being understood a little bit more. So we can move on to the next slide. Yeah, sorry, I've shared that again, about women, about why some people are only now recognizing. Yeah, and again, just to emphasize about the impact of perimenopause, particularly the impact of what others who recognize as brain fog and challenges with planning difficulties and things like that starts to become that much more pronounced for adults with neurodivergence. And so that question then comes up: have I always been neurodivergent, or did I start to catch it? But the answer is usually you have always been neurodivergent. Life is just happening now, that acceptance does help to be able to accept that nothing bad is happening to you. Your brain is doing things. And again, like I said, others have said, I finally understand myself better. I'm not broken. There's a reason that things have felt so difficult. And now I can ask for what I need, and others can respond better to me, and perhaps I can protect my energy and not work twice as hard to try and be normal, so to speak. And that is in massive quotes, normal. Next slide, please. So sorry, I'm just gonna just check if I even need this slide. No, that's fine. We can move on. Sorry, I wasn't sure what all we covered before mine, so I kind of kept all the slides in case I needed it. So what I wanted to just kind of touch on real quick is that neurodivergence, and particularly those who find themselves have autistic traits on it, can find that the traditional work setting can suddenly become very difficult. The same way that children start to recognize that, once they come out of nursery, is that the traditional school set can become that little bit more difficult. But the UK, or England and Wales at least, as far as what my knowledge lies, has done some really good work in terms of educating employers or requiring that they make reasonable adjustments for adults with neurodivergence and learning disabilities. The first thing you can do is to state, to state quite clearly to the employer that you believe that this may be something that is part of your makeup, like neurodivergence and autism, and they're then required to consider with you what adjustments need to be made. And usually what we find in my work area as well is that adults with neurodivergence and autism traits already know what works for them. They've always known. And they've always tried to work in it. And so it's now about having and taking back that power to say, this is what I need. And being, ensuring that if it is about making sure that plans are predictable, that you're asked for, because the law is now stating, it has made it clear that employers have to follow that. And there's been quite a few now employment tribunals where the outcome has been ruled in favor of the employee because they did ask. They asked and they stated what it was. The employer did not make reasonable adjustments. So things are changing in the workplace for adults who are neurodivergent, learning disability. There's more support and more understanding as well. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so one of the things, again, that I guess to close out, in this space where we're kind of focusing on respectful discussion, dignity, and acceptance of neurodiversity and autism, is that for the individual, the recognition and talking more about, Cynthia emphasized, and putting it out there and gathering around yourself around that community that also accepting, is that it helps to manage that energy overload of trying to cope by yourself, and it does reduce that self-blame, which a lot of people, particularly from our background, culture, and faith, can sometimes be just, even if nobody's ever said that it's your fault, it's communicated by the neurotypical that something is not quite right with you or with that loved one of yours. And so that giving a voice helps to reduce that self-blame, because there's literally it's not an illness. It is a different core operating processor. That's all. And that can, of course, make things difficult because some things are amplified and some things are brought down. But for our community as well, and as you've brought us together to talk about it, it helps to stop blaming individuals. It helps to understand even the language to use to communicate difference. It helps us to notice burnout in others earlier. And to adapt the way, even in a meeting like this, or someone might be more accepting and quicker to respond when someone is saying, "Oh, actually, can everyone please minimize your background?" Just different things. Or we're going to put subtitles, or it's always called, subtitles in for someone to help them follow. Or we're going to just, in our environment, if you think of some of our community gatherings, are loud and completely organized chaos, but when we have a little bit more acceptance that everyone here some people here may need something different, we're quicker to be thinking in our planning about how to make our communities and our gatherings more inclusive for people. And imagine the difference it will make for someone when they didn't have to ask and it's been thought of, So that's kind of where, for me, that's where my passions lie. When we are thinking about and just changing and making our communities more inclusive and acceptable. Sorry, next slide, please. So yeah, I mean, I think we've gone over that. The key takeaways really from this, and both Cynthia and Dr. Dami have covered that, and this would be the last slide, is that autism is not a mental illness. Neither is neurodivergence in itself. Autism is a neurodivergent difference, not a mental illness. It can exacerbate mental ill health in the same way that people with one particular illness can then have challenges in other areas. It's not caused by some sort of parenting issues or faith issues or not praying hard enough or personal failure. And there's no cure for it because it's not an illness. But what helps is about having that support and the adjustments to help improve the quality of life. So, and diagnosis in adulthood, even if it's been missed all of this time, and this is why I kind of champion just start the process of getting diagnosed, is that it can bring clarity, it can bring dignity, and it can be that door to starting to ask for and taking the power to ask for that practical support in different environments that you might find yourself with. And particularly for us women of a certain age, perimenopause and menopause can intensify neurodivergence. So when you start to see those things, nothing bad is happening. The brain is an organ. Menopause is a hormonal changes. So it's like that clash. So, recognizing it and then thinking, right, we need to do things differently. I need to ask for different things can, help you take back that power and to, help you live the life that you want. That's the whole point, really. For this. So thank you for wish that in our communities we could do more on. So yeah, thank you very, very much.
Wow, big wow. Thank you, Abigail. Thank you. Can we appreciate Abigail for that presentation, please, for taking the time to break things down for us. I mean, she's covered the entire spectrum, moved through children to adults, talked about people like myself in that situation where you're just discovering things and you're asking questions. Has this always been there? Was it in the background? Are there things surfacing, certain tendencies, and advocating for ourselves, and then inclusion, and that's an entire societal responsibility, isn't it? It's not an illness. It's not a condition or something that is so. It's not shrouded in secrecy anymore. We're talking about it. We're learning about it, and hopefully, as we know better, we will begin to do better as a society. Thank you so much. Thank you, and well done, everyone. You've been a fantastic audience. You've paid attention. You've stayed up until now. And I'm just going to give us 30 seconds to a minute to perhaps get up, stretch your legs. If you want to grab a drink, it's quite hot, isn't it? If you want to grab a drink, you can do that now because the Q&A session will be starting in earnest. Okay, so while you're doing that, I'm just going to put some information on the screen, talking about Brook Sparkle Project, which is the organization that has put this program together as community support.